Try that again. Morning everyone. Got a bit of time over Christmas break, so I'm not very good with the camera, but I thought I would try and film the jobs I need to do to that. It's my Toyota MR2. She's got a lot of work that needs doing. I'm going to try and make a little bit of a list down the front of it, just, I don't know, with some masking tape or something. Because I've seen other YouTubers do it and it looks fun. Have a list, little shopping list of jobs that needs to get taken care of. But first order of business today is, unfortunately, this guy. We had a small incident with a lamppost doing some sliding, definitely on a closed road in Mexico. Obviously standard, it's supposed to look like that. And this is the only thing that's really keeping my car from being actually road legal. So I have some repair tape, which I'm going to use just to put some orange over this lens, some clear over here, although I don't necessarily need to do that, and then red for the fog light and brake light. Well, I might have them the wrong way around. One of these is fog, one of these is brake. I'm pretty sure that's the brake and tail light. A good way of checking that actually is by the bulb. If you can see in there, which you probably can't, the fog light, which is in fact this one, will be a single filament bulb, whereas the brake light is a twin filament. So one filament will light up for the tail light, which will be on at night time with your headlights or side lights, and then when you press the brakes, the other filament will light. So normally I like to say the first step is to jack up your car, but fortunately this is one job we can do without jacking the car up. So the tools you're going to need are, in my case, a knife or a pair of side cutters ideally for this zip tie, because unfortunately where the chassis remains slightly bent, well, not the chassis, just the rear support legs, the actual chassis legs down here remained nice and straight, which is good. Don't mind the corrosion. This still doesn't line up, and a couple of other panels don't perfectly match, but we're not too worried about that today. So all you really need is a number 3 Phillips head screwdriver, a knife, and there is on this car a very annoying tab underneath the tail light, somewhere down in the bumper underneath this. It's going to be impossible to show you, but believe me, it's down there somewhere. So, sponsored by Ryobi, I wish. Lefty loosey on this guy, back our screw out, that one's come free, and then grab your knife. Hopefully we can just go straight through that. Lovely. I would say save the zip tie for later, but that's just not going to happen. Now hopefully the tail light will just come free. Yeah, so this is the annoying tab I was talking about. There we go, taken off. The tab may even be broken on this side, I can't remember. But yeah, so I'll get these bulbs unplugged under here and we'll keep cracking on. Right at the workbench, you'll notice I've kept the bulbs in. Normally when I take taillights out of this car, I tend to just twist each bulb out because these plugs can be a bit finicky, but because my car is in the condition that it's currently in, I kept the bulbs in. The reason I've done that is orange is the indicator, obviously, and that will just serve as a reminder of which one of these I want clear and which one I want to keep orange. So at a nice, tidy, organised workbench, I have picked up some lens tape. So when you take this off its backing paper, you'll see, I can't do it with gloves on, but the tape itself is clear. And so what I plan on doing is I will just rough up an edge. So I'll rough up here and I will rough up over here. Unfortunately the tape I bought, we're on a bit of a budget this Christmas, aren't we all? Unfortunately the tape is shorter than I anticipated, so I don't have as much material as I would like, because I was going to just wrap the whole bulb in red. However, that's just not going to be feasible, so we're going to have to do it lens by lens, and then obviously the round around here is going to be a bit more difficult, just due to the shape of it and dealing with tape, so we'll see what we do with that. And yeah. Right, so I've got you guys mounted on a tripod now. What I want to take care of first is, obviously this taillight's been on the outside of my car for, well, 114,000 miles I suppose, but it's been exposed to the elements for the past sort of 15, 20k. It's been cracked open and parachuting. So I want to just, because I'm limited on tape, I want to make sure that any surface like this, the tape's going to adhere to nicely. As you can see, there's loads of watermarks on it, droplets, and that's just stuff that's going to make the tape have a hard time. I did experiment with a small bit of wire brush. This one's been used quite heavily on brake calipers and stuff in the past, but all that did was score the plastic up. It's going to be very hard to show you on a reflective surface, but these scores here were caused by running a wire brush over. Now I'm not too concerned because I would like to build some custom lights in the future, but that sort of surface isn't really what I want to be sticking my tape to, even though it would help the tape adhere better. It's just, I just don't really like it. I think it's a bit ugly. So what I'm going to do in the end is I've got some of Halford's finest coarse grit sandpaper, and I'll just do a brief sand around the edges here, and especially on these smooth surfaces. And then I will take just a bit of standard kitchen roll and some meth spirits. Don't drink this. We'll just dab them on like that. And this will really nicely, it can damage plastic, so do be careful if you're doing this on any other car's tail lights. I haven't tested it on mine. I imagine will be okay. And this will just provide, yeah, you can see it's already taken the chrome sort of shiny finish off. But we're not worried about that in this case, because this tail light is effectively scrap. So we'll just get this nice and clean. As you can see, that's already making a surface much better for something to adhere to. This stuff does evaporate really, really, really quickly. So, you know, you're not going to worry about putting tape on a wet surface. However, adhesives do love this stuff. And so if your surface remains slightly moist, that's not going to cause you a problem, and the tape should stick super well. And in fact, I'm so pleased with that finish. I'm going to go ahead and do that around this light. Again, this is the brake light, as you can tell by the twin filament bulb. And I will just do a quick experiment with some of the clear tape, because that's the one I need the least, just to see how well it's going to adhere to this. Right, so excellent news. I probably should have used the orange or red tapes for this demonstration, but there is a piece of tape on this light. And I've just stuck it onto our sort of matted surface that we've cleaned with the meth spirits. And we're actually getting like really good adhesion there. It'll lift off, but stretched over, which is what we're worried about, because this isn't going to be, well, hopefully, and I'll explain some more about that later, this won't be subjected to any forces pulling it up and away. So we'll just pull it tight over the lens as so, and I think we're actually going to get a pretty good job done. Okay, so apologies all, I have jumped ahead slightly, but I am actually reasonably pleased with how this is coming out. Obviously, I am taping up a tail light. It's never going to come out that well. But what I've done is, and I mean, they are sloppy, but I made a couple of relief cuts along the tape just for it to wrap around the corner. And I've tried to keep tension in the tape. However, I don't want to keep too much in, just because I don't trust the adhesion. And people are going to hate this, but I will probably follow along this edge with some, or like some Gorilla tape or some duct tape to just properly do the edges in when I finished up. And then I also will need to poke a small hole in this corner, just because I don't think I'm going to be able to block up this drainage channel. And it's going to fill up with water when it rains. So these are just things to think about. The finish here though, with the meth spirits, the tape's adhesing super duper well. It really seems to like sticking to it. That crease looks absolutely horrific in this light. I promise you, when it's on the car, it won't look too bad, but I mean, again, look at what we're working with here, guys, and it's zip tied in and the tabs are broken, so it doesn't need to be a work of art. I just thought I'd film doing this because, well, maybe it makes it less painful. Maybe I just enjoy playing with broken cars, who knows. But yeah, what I'm going to do, as you can see, the tape is clear. I've pre-cut my next length of red, and I will try and show you me sticking it to the light. Obviously, I mean, if anybody ever comes to this video for help, I assume you know how tape works. It's, you peel off the back and it's sticky. That's that's tape. Being a cheap product, obviously, this stuff is crap and it's all just separating. So, you know, your mileage may vary. I also suspect I'm going to run out of red because this is all I've got left, so I may not have a functioning fog. Well, it'll be functioning, but it won't be very legal for a good while, so guess we'll just have to not drive the MR2 if it gets too foggy. I generally tend to keep it, you know, it is my daily driver, but I don't tend to use it in really adverse conditions too often. So I'm going to give it the slightest bit of overlap just to pray for some sort of water resistance, but I'm not expecting much. And I'll just stick it to one side. And I've got that nice and straight. A small amount of tension on there just to stop any serious creases from coming through. And then again through here and just stick it down. And now it is going to wrinkle because this has a really annoying slight curvature to it. But we're taping up a tail light here, boys. It doesn't need to be perfect. This is no Picasso piece. It's just to get me through until I can cough up a bit of coin to make some custom lights. Now, here's a gap that has developed. Quite annoying. What we can do, obviously we'll just adjust the tape, keep playing with it. I don't want to be lifting it off too much because it'll pick up bits of paint and just not stick down as nicely the second and third time around. But also, oh, that's actually come a lot better. Again, I could put a relief cut in there, but I'm not going to bother. there's my handiwork for you. But you know, this isn't too bad. I think this tape cost me £3. You know, I'm going to try and run a paintbrush down there or something thin to stick these two layers together slightly, just to appease my own need for neatness. But I'm pretty happy with this so far. This ridge on this corner is going to be difficult. I'm not sure we're going to tape over that yet. But when it comes to the legality of running a tail light like this on the road, the law states that the brake light must emit a solid red light and it cannot emit any other colours going to the rear of the vehicle. Most of the time on an MOT, if you had some, and I mean like a small amount of white light coming from your bulb off to the side of the vehicle, if it's not directly from the rear, that shouldn't be a fail, and I doubt you'd have any issues there, but I really wouldn't be pushing that one too hard. Brake lights are important, tail lights are very important too, especially if you drive a tiny silver car like mine on foggy, Cotswoldy winter roads at night. You know, that's why I'm rushing to do this, because at the moment, I just effectively have a headlight on the back of my car, and that's just going to upset other road users. And we're not about that. We drive loud, noisy, fast cars, so we're going to do it legally, we're going to do it safely. Okay, so, ignoring this ugly border, we've done it again, made some relief cuts for the corners. There is some creasing going on. This is a tape tail light, we're not too fast. Some relief cuts for the corners down here as well, and that is largely one tail light taped up, so that is brake and tail lights for when we're driving. Now, going back to my comment on MOTs, this is all I have remaining of the clear red tape. And so we're obviously not going to manage to make a rear fog light. However, in the UK, if you are doing this to a UK-based vehicle, a vehicle is only required to pass an MOT test and be legal to be used on the street to have one rear-facing fog light. The MR2, luckily for us, has two. And since my left side fog is working perfectly, all we're going to do is pop this bulb out for now. I'll stick it in a little bag, right rear fog on it, just so I know what it is. We can then replace this bulb holder. On the MR2s, all they are is simple in and twist to lock in place. And now this light is rendered useless. So I will put a bit of black tape over that just to waterproof it. Or in fact, to be honest, I'll just stuff the connector with some dielectric grease to inhibit corrosion. But that's the easy part done, guys. I'm gonna do some more cleaning up around these edges, get these watermarks off, get the chrome plating sort of scuffed up a bit. And we will embark on the journey that is going to be making some round tape light lenses. So wish us luck there. I'll be back in a bit after I've done some scheming. Okay, so been away, had some lunch, another cup of tea, and this is what I'm going to call a finished product. Aesthetically functional, I think is what we'll call it. I did opt for a sort of I mean, originally I thought it was going to look alright. Like up here I thought it was okay. It's just a border of Gorilla Tape. Just gone for that because it's going to be a lot more weather resistant. I do plan on washing the vehicle a couple of times. It does get driven in the rain, etc. So I think, although it's not very pleasing, this is realistically a taped together headlight, or tail light, which is held on by zip ties. So I think we'll call it good at that. I'm alright with it. You know, reasonable degree of tension in the tape. It's going to emit all the correct colours legally. I don't need to cover this one up. These are just Chinesium reverse lights, and they are a lot more functional like this anyway. So yeah, I'm alright with that, to be honest. So let's go stick it on the car and see if it looks okay. Okay. Installation of tail light is as simple as the removal. Obviously, this is where the tab's located that I mentioned earlier, and it sticks into this little hole down here, but as you can see, damaged and broken. So this tail light should just slot in. It takes a bit of persuading because the car is quite bent, unsurprisingly, but just get it stuck in. That will do for me. They just about line up. We'll start with our screw. This is just a self-tapper into a plastic bung. Does help if you put it on righty-tighty instead of lefty-loosey. And then I drilled a small hole here on my taillight assembly just to allow for a zip tie to come through. I will just zip tie through there, back up through the little plug that originally held a screw. More fiddly than it looks, but that's cars. Right, just going for take two with the zip tie because I'm using the smallest, most pathetic zip ties ever. Managed to snap one. Always reassuring when you're relying on them to hold your car together. But yeah, we're just going to put the zip tie through the bumper support. I mean, I'm not using it to hold the bumper on, so I may as well use it for something. Cinch it tight. This isn't really subject to any force. The screw is what holds it on mostly. Plug the connector back in. The connector's down here. The other connector's inside the car. Just stick them back together. And that's it. Right. There's my beautiful taillight installed. I'm just going to flick the ignition on and I will run through the pedals and we'll just make sure that the indicator and the taillight and the reverse light function as intended, just in case I got them mixed around. Right, ignition's on. Hopefully that'll be my side lights. And I'm really hoping I can see from here that the indicator is working, so we'll see how good that is in the daytime. And there we are. Hopefully you can now patch up your taillights as well. Maybe even make it look a lot better than my bit of Picasso work here.